Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take the vast ocean of sources, your articles, notes, and research, and distill them into the nuggets of knowledge you need to be brilliantly informed.
Today, we're embarking on a journey that, on the surface, involves a boy, a dog with a clock for a body, and a lot of very peculiar royalty.
We are diving deep into the allegorical and linguistic genius found in the world of Norton Juster's The Phantom Tollbooth.
That's right. Our mission today is to really unpack how this whimsical fantasy operates as a kind of foundational textbook on critical thinking.
Right.
We're looking at how the narrative uses wit, absurdity, and just sheer creativity to teach us these timeless lessons about the value of time, the power of language, and, crucially, the importance of active engagement with the world.
And our journey begins with a problem that I think is so universal, yet it feels deeply personal. It's the protagonist, Milo, and his struggle with this chronic, crippling boredom.
He is the archetypal bored boy. I mean, it's not just that he lacks things to do. He actually lacks the desire to do anything.
Yeah, the source notes say he wishes he were elsewhere, but even if he got there, he would still wonder why he bothered. It's a deep, existential kind of apathy.
That initial state of apathy is really the engine of the entire story. Milo's world is full of things to explore, but he just sees everything as a non-starter.
It's a sadness that comes from a complete lack of engagement.
A boredom so profound that, and I love this detail from the source material, a deep sigh he lets out literally scares a nearby house sparrow into rushing home to its family.
Those little details are what elevate the emotion, They make it so real. And the core of his apathy, it seems to stem from a disillusionment with abstract learning, right?
Absolutely. He sees no value in the exercises presented to him. We get these brilliant, specific examples of what he considers just completely pointless.
Looks like subtracting turnips from turnips.
Yes, exactly. He can't see the point in solving useless problems.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand the relevance of knowing geography where Ethiopia is, or even, the tricky spelling of February.
That detail about the turnips is just so perfect because it captures that feeling so many of us have had toward abstract learning. It feels like pointless repetition.
Right, and the source notes that since no one bothered to explain otherwise, Milo truly viewed the process of seeking knowledge as the greatest waste of time of all.
His world felt small and empty, despite its size.
And that initial mindset is exactly what Juster is challenging. See, Milo isn't stupid. He's a victim of education delivered without context or application.
He's getting the what, but never the why.
Precisely, and that's why the whole narrative kicks off with this outside intervention, this arrival of a huge, strange, unexpected package.
The unexpected portal. It's a genuine purple turnpike toll booth, easily assembled for use by those who have never traveled in lands beyond.
And the message on the envelope is so personal and also a little bit mocking. For Milo, who has plenty of time.
The irony is just dripping from that. Because in Milo's mind, time is this infinite, burdensome thing that he has to get rid of.
And the adventure starts the second he accepts this personal invitation and actually makes a choice. He sets up the signs, one of which says, "Have your destination in mind."
So he drives this little electric car through, deposits the coin, and what started as make-believe instantly becomes very real.
The journey from passive observer to active participant is launched, all because he committed to a destination Dictionopolis.
Okay, so let's unpack this shift from apathy to action in what the outline calls Part 1, Escaping Apathy, the Value of Time and Thought. The moment Milo commits and pays that toll, he enters a place called expectations.
And the world changes immediately. The source says the colors become richer, brighter. It's almost startling. It's the immediate psychological reward of having hope, of looking forward.
It's the motivation you get from setting a goal.
Exactly. But the very first person he meets is a kind of warning against intellectual paralysis. He meets the weatherman.
Oh, the weatherman is just a masterclass in indecision. He speaks so rapidly, repeating everything, and he just hates making up his mind about anything.
And he gives this piece of advice that sounds profound but is actually, well, useless. He says, "Expect everything, I always say, and the unexpected never happens."
Which sounds smart for a second.
For a second. But if you expect everything, you're prepared for nothing. You haven't engaged in the active process of selection or prioritization or, anticipation. The weatherman is the person who lives solely in a state of potentiality, unwilling to commit to any actual reality.
And the visual consequence of this is so immediate and, frankly, brutal. As Milo drives off in the bright sunshine, the weatherman is just left standing there in a fierce cloudburst that seemed to be raining only on him.
It's a perfect metaphor. Self-isolation caused by choice avoidance. By refusing to choose whether it's good or bad, up or down, in or out, he ensures his world is permanently miserable.
Indecision doesn't grant freedom. It creates a self-imposed prison of misery.
Right. But despite this incredibly vivid warning, Milo immediately reverts to his old habit. He starts daydreaming, takes the wrong road, and plunges right into the monochromatic gray landscape of the Doldrums. This feels like the first real test of his commitment to the journey.
And he fails almost instantly just by letting his mind drift back into non-thought.
And the Doldrums are where the allegory of intellectual stagnation really hardens. Everything is quiet, still, and just monotonously gray. It's the literal embodiment of the boredom Milo started with, now made external.
And this is where we meet the Lethargarians.
These creatures are so fascinating. They are difficult to see because they take on the color of whatever they're sitting on, and they're perpetually napping. Their mission, which they proudly declare, is to get nothing done.
Their whole society is built on institutionalized pointlessness. We have to look at the specific absurd regulations. Local Ordinance 1853989J.
Which makes it unlawful, illegal, and unethical to think of thinking, surmise, presume, reason, meditate, or speculate.
They don't just ban thinking, they ban thinking about thinking.
And laughing is banned too. Ordinance 574381W only permits smiling on alternate Thursdays. They legislate against the two fundamental tools that disrupt apathy: critical thought and humor.
But the real genius here is their structured pointlessness. They have this very busy schedule of doing nothing.
It's a rigorous daily routine of inertia. They schedule daydreaming from 8 to 9, an early mid-morning nap from 9 to 9:30, a late early morning nap from 10:30 to 11:30.
And my favorite, lingering from 2.30 to 3.30, and then putting off work from 4.0 to 5.0.
It's the ultimate satire of, corporate inefficiency or just our own self-imposed mental blocks. They're so busy managing their time not doing anything that they're completely exhausted.
They even argue about it. They insist they want to get nothing done and that it's really quite strenuous doing nothing all day.
It brilliantly shows that non-productivity isn't rest. It's mentally draining. It requires intense, focused effort to maintain that illusion of relaxation.
When you're procrastinating, you often feel more tired than when you're actively working.
Exactly. The Lethargarians are, paradoxically, the hardest workers in the lands beyond because they commit all their energy to structured avoidance.
So how does Milo break this spell of organized stagnation?
With the arrival of Tock, the watchdog, a large dog with a loudly ticking alarm clock body. His appearance is an immediate disruption.
The Doldrums can only exist in silence and stillness.
Right. And when Milo casually tells Tock he was just killing time, the watchdog becomes furious, and his alarm goes off, scattering the Lethargarians.
It's the ultimate intellectual confrontation. Milo treats time as disposable, but Tock views it as a sacred commodity.
And Tock provides this fundamental lesson on time's true value. He explains that once time was considered so abundant, 60 seconds in a minute, 24 hours in a day, that the general opinion was if there's so much of it, it couldn't be very valuable.
That's the psychological trap of youth, isn't it? Or even modern life. If a resource seems infinite, its individual units become meaningless.
We see it with knowledge, too. If every fact is on your phone, does any single fact have value? And because people wasted time, even gave it away, watchdogs were invented. Tock proudly declares their family tradition is protecting the most valuable possession, more precious than diamonds. He makes it tangible.
And the solution for escaping the Doldrums is so direct. Tock tells him, since you got here by not thinking, it seems reasonable to expect that in order to get out, you must start thinking.
Milo just forces his brain to focus on random, active thought spurts that swim, numbers that end in 3, and the car starts to move faster and faster as his brain whirled with activity.
The only way out of apathy is intellectual exertion and curiosity.
So having learned the value of time and the necessity of thought, Milo and Tock arrive at the first great challenge of the mind, Part 2, the tyranny of language dictionopolis.
Even the description of the city is a warning. It's in the foothills of confusion, but gets breezes from the sea of knowledge. That sounds like the internet.
It's a perfect metaphor, and the gatekeeper immediately underscores the importance of language. He demands a reason, an explanation, or an excuse for entry.
Milo, having just learned to think, can't come up with a sophisticated reason, so the gateman gives him one, a medallion engraved with "W-Y not."
That's a good reason for almost anything, a bit used perhaps, but still quite serviceable. It's this wonderful recognition that sometimes just questioning the status quo is enough to open the door.
Once inside, though, The problem isn't a lack of words, it's a ridiculous excess. They meet the king's cabinet.
The Duke of Definition, Minister of Meaning, Earl of Essence, Count of Connotation, and the Undersecretary of Understanding. 5 gentlemen who insist on using 5 redundant words for everything.
They embody the critique of jargon and bureaucratic complexity. When Milo suggests just using one word, they all shout, "Nonsense, ridiculous, fantastic, absurd, bosh."
And they rationalize it. They argue that if one is right, then 10 or 10 times is right. They're deliberately complicating communication to assert status. They even define cabinet recursively, listing all 3 definitions without ever providing any actual clarity.
It's a political act. It signals power. If you speak in 5 complicated synonyms, you appear more intelligent than the person who just uses one precise word.
Precisely, and this extends to the entire city's economy. The whole operation revolves around words, which are literally grown right here in our orchards.
The word market is incredible. It's a sensory overload of communication. Stalls selling fresh-picked ifs, ands, and buts, and nice ripe wares and wins.
But the truly liberating part is the DIY wagon, where you can make your own words from edible letters. Milo discovers letters have literal tastes.
A is sweet and delicious. I is icy and refreshing.
But Z is very dry and sawdusty, and X tastes like a trunk full of stale air, which is why people hardly use them.
Wait, I want to unpack that for a second. If A is sweet and X is stale, is Juster implying that certain letters, because of their utility or sound, are intrinsically more appealing to the human mind? It grounds linguistics in physical enjoyment.
It absolutely does. It makes the active creation of meaning a physically rewarding process. The person running the wagon says most people are just too lazy to make their own words, but it's much more fun.
It's a call to linguistic creativity, not just passive consumption. But the fun kind of stops when the fundamental conflict arrives, with the spelling bee versus the humbug.
The spelling bee represents diligence, memorization, the foundational structure of education. The humbug, lavishly dressed and introduced as Insecticus humbugium, champions intellectual apathy.
The humbug's argument is the classic defense of intellectual laziness, and it sounds so compelling. He boasts about his noble family history fighting with Richard the Lionheart, crossing with Columbus, using inherited status to replace actual knowledge.
His core argument is the justification for quitting. As soon as you learn to spell one word, they ask you to spell another. You can never catch up, so why bother?
And then he drops that devastating quote that should echo in every academic hall. A slavish concern for the composition of words is the sign of a bankrupt intellect.
It's a direct attack on the need for precision. He's suggesting that caring about the basic building blocks of communication is proof of stupidity.
And that conflict, the structuralist versus the lazy showman, causes an actual physical fight, knocking over all the word stalls. This leads directly to their arrest by Officer Shrift.
This tiny man who is the policeman, judge, and jailer all at once, he embodies the absurdity of quick, arbitrary justice.
He charges Milo with a whole list of things: having a dog with an unauthorized alarm, sowing confusion, upsetting the apple cart, wreaking havoc, and mincing words.
The process is a total mockery of due process. When Milo asks for a short sentence, Shrift gives him "I am," followed by an additional penalty of 6 million years in prison.
The shortest possible assertion of existence, but the penalty makes the whole thing pointless.
It highlights how, in this world, language is a dangerous weapon, and their incarceration leads them to meet Faintly Macabre, the official witch.
She was King Azaz's great aunt, tasked with choosing which words were to be used for all occasions. Her story is the ultimate cautionary tale about misusing language control.
Exactly. She started by promoting things like brevity is the soul of wit, but the power of control corrupted her. She became so miserly that she limited words until all talk stopped. She created intellectual starvation as a form of social control.
So the lesson is dual. Language must be both abundant and precise. Scarcity leads to silence, but excess leads to meaninglessness.
She warns Milo that while it's wrong to use too few words, it is often far worse to use too many, and she offers him a box of sugar-coated punctuation marks, the only thing she gets to eat.
Even in prison, the components of clarity, the building blocks of thought, are what sustain her.
And the culmination of all this is the royal banquet, where everyone literally eats the words they speak. King Azaz the Unabridged presides.
The ability to summon a meal by reciting its components is such a delightful mechanism.
But the real insight comes with dessert. The half-bakery, which is the source of half-baked ideas, capes with phrases like, the earth is flat, or the moon is made of green cheese.
Tock correctly warns that you can get terribly sick of them. And the critical point is that they are eaten quickly. usually before they can be examined too closely.
It's a profound satire on how quickly unsubstantiated popular opinions, the clickbait and slogans of our era, are swallowed whole without any reflection.
Exactly. They are palatable because they are simple, not because they are true. Milo cautiously wraps up, everything happens for the best. He's learning to treat unsubstantiated opinions with suspicion.
So, having secured the tools of language, Milo is now ready for the next level of intellectual rigor.
And he's tasked with rescuing the banished princesses, Rhyme and Reason, who represent the balance between logic and feeling.
King Azaz agrees, and his gift is symbolic of the power Milo has just secured. A small, heavy box containing all the words I know.
Azaz explains that words are the tools to ask and answer any question, to overcome any obstacle, provided they're used well and in the right places.
Wait, if the problem in Dictionopolis was the misuse of words, both too many and too few, why is the solution giving Milo more words? Isn't that just adding to the burden?
That's a critical question, and I think the difference is the ownership and the intent.
Okay.
When the cabinet used words, it was for obfuscation and status. When Faintly Macabre hoarded them, it was for control. Azaz gives Milo the words as tools, stripped of political intent, for personal use.
So it's not about the volume, it's about the agency.
Exactly. The tool is neutral. The application determines its value. And the humbug is forced to cheerfully volunteer as the guide, setting them on their path to part 3, perception and sound.
Their first stop is the forest of sight, or point of view. This section is foundational to understanding reality. They meet Alec Bings.
Oh, Alec gives one of the most brilliant visual metaphors for perspective in all of literature. He floats midair because in his family, everyone is born with their head at their adult height and grows down toward the ground.
Right. So Milo, who grows up, is considered very old to have already reached the ground. The narrative just flips our established reality on its head.
The lesson is so explicit. Since Milo grows up, his head is constantly changing height, so you always see things in a different way.
But Alec, whose head stays fixed, sees everything except what is right in front of his nose. The implication is that intellectual stagnation happens when you refuse to change your perspective. You miss the things closest to you.
And this concept of relativity is reinforced with the paradox of the giant midget thin man,
Who is simultaneously the smallest giant in the world, the tallest midget in the world, and the fattest thin man in the world.
So are we saying all descriptions are just a matter of opinion then? That all truth is relative?
That's a great challenge. No, I don't think Juster is saying all truth is relative. He's demonstrating that descriptors are relative. The man's objective size is fixed, but his designation giant, midget, thin man depends entirely on the comparison set you view him through.
So it's a critique of using subjective labels as if they were objective facts. You have to be aware of the context that defines your terms.
Which makes the next step even more tragic, the invisible city of reality. It was once magnificent, but it disappeared.
Because of collective neglect. Or as Alec puts it, nobody cared. People were rushing through life, only focused on getting from A to B, looking only at their shoes.
They forgot that the most important reason for going from one place to another is to see what's in between.
And when they stopped appreciating and observing the city, the source says it grew uglier and dirtier, and then slowly began to disappear entirely.
It's the social contract of observation. If a city is magnificent but no one observes its magnificence, the collective experience of that city diminishes. The reality of its wonder vanishes for them.
Which is crucial for Milo, who previously rushed home, ignoring his own life.
And the antidote to this is the gift Alec gives Milo, a telescope, which allows him to see things as they really are, not just as they seem to be. The tool for discerning objective truth from subjective appearance.
Armed with this new perspective, they encounter Chroma the Great, conductor of color. He conducts an orchestra to play the sunset, the sunrise, and all the colors of the spectrum.
This illustrates the beautiful structure underlying something we take for granted. Color isn't random. It requires a conductor, a score, and an orchestra.
And here's where Milo, still a novice, abuses his newfound power. He decides to conduct the sunrise at 5:23 a.m., thinking it'll be easy.
It gets really interesting here. He uses the power carelessly. He tries to signal a stop, but the colors just grow brighter and brighter. The sky changes from blue to tan and magenta red.
Flurries of light green snowfall, leaves turn vivid orange, and the purple sun races across the sky 7 times in a few minutes.
It compresses a whole week into moments. It's the lesson that having the tools, the telescope, the box of words, isn't enough. True mastery requires understanding the score, the underlying principles.
Creativity without control leads to chaos.
Having created that chaos, they plummet into the Valley of Sound. First, they meet Dr. Cacophonous A. Discord, Doctor of Dissonance, and his assistant, the awful DYNE, a bluish smog.
Dr. Discord is a master of noise pollution, specializing in smashes, crashes, and screeches. He argues noise is the most valuable thing in the world.
His proof is this perverse application of utility. A baby asks for food by screaming, so ugly noise is a necessary communication tool.
It's the ultimate argument for prioritizing volume over quality. But they arrive to find the valley itself is completely silent, policed by the soundkeeper.
And her story is a sociological critique of information overload. She originally collected and preserved all sounds. But as people grew busier, they started making louder, uglier noises and stopped listening to the quiet, beautiful ones.
So when Dr. Discord arrived and cured everybody of everything but noise, she became furious and abolished all sound entirely.
Her action is an allegory for intellectual retreat. When the quality of public discourse declines, the keeper of knowledge sometimes chooses radical silence rather than engage with the noise.
The soundkeeper then reveals the physical reality of sand in her workshop, which is a wonderful surprise to Milo.
Sounds have exact shapes and sizes. A bass drum beat is a large woolly cotton ball, a hand clap is a sheet of white paper, laughter is tiny bubbles, and music is woven on looms like tapestries.
So sound isn't just waves, it's a tangible, beautiful resource, just like the words Milo received.
And here is Milo's true moment of ingenious critical thinking. The people outside need a sound to load their cannon. The soundkeeper is distracted by her own phone call. She calls herself because she's lonely.
In that instant, Milo asks to say the word but.
The word but is inherently disruptive. It introduces a caveat, a disagreement, a qualification. It's the most powerful tool of critical thought.
And before the word fully escapes his lips, Milo clamps his mouth shut, trapping the physical, tangible sound of BU on the tip of his tongue.
He loads the silent BUT into the cannon. It strikes the fortress wall, and then this blasting, roaring, thundering smash as every sound that had ever been made bursts from the vaults.
A single word of critical qualification breaks the tyranny of silence.
And she realizes her mistake. For you can't improve sound by having only silence. The problem is to use each at the proper time. You have to engage with the noise, not abolish the medium.
And she gives him a package of sounds, including all kinds of laughter, as a tool for the rest of the journey.
Having conquered the nuance of language and perception, the travelers now move toward the rigid structures of the mathematical realm in Part 4, the world of numbers digitopolis.
And the transition is marked by the Humbug's confident pronouncement.
Nothing can possibly go wrong now.
And because he spoke so assuredly without thinking, they immediately jump to the island of conclusions. Of course, the man who greets them can be, explains. Every time you decide something without having a good reason, you jump to conclusions whether you like it or not.
And escaping is not easy. It requires swimming in the sea of knowledge, which is a very long and a very hard way.
Canby then delivers one of the book's most famous and stinging observations.
You can swim all day in the sea of knowledge and still come out completely dry. Most people do.
That is a profound critique of passive learning. You can be surrounded by information, but unless you actively engage with it, you emerge unchanged.
They make the swim, reinforcing that active, uncomfortable effort is required to escape rash judgment. On the far shore, they meet the dodecahedron,
A 12-faced mathematical shape, each face with a different expression. He criticizes Milo for having only one face, suggesting he'll wear it out.
The dodecahedron praises the precision of digitopolis. Triangles are triangles. Numbers always mean the same thing. It's a deliberate contrast to Dictionopolis.
But this mathematical realm proves that pure logic, divorced from context, can be just as absurd as rhetorical excess.
The dodecahedron poses these convoluted logic problems that just overwhelm Milo and the Humbug. And then he provides that famous, terrifying example of flawed mathematical extrapolation.
The beaver.
The beaver. If a 2-foot beaver builds a small dam in 2 days, he argues, then all you need to build the massive Boulder Dam is a 68-foot beaver with a 51-foot tail.
Which is terrifying because the math is technically correct within the framework provided. The ratios hold true. But the context, the structural limits of reality, the physics of a giant beaver is completely ignored.
It's a critique of using quantitative data blindly. It satirizes how pure logic can lead to absurd conclusions if real-world limits are abandoned.
The dodecahedron leads them into the mountain mine of the math magician, who is dressed in a robe covered in complex equations, carrying a staff that's a pencil on one end and an eraser on the other.
He boasts of the largest number mine in the kingdom, where they dig up numbers 1 through 9 and zeros.
But the truly shocking part is the inverse economy. The humbug is aghast at the enormous mounds of precious gems, diamonds, rubies, sapphires, which the math magician just ignores.
They're a terrible nuisance and are simply thrown out as waste. It's a profound statement. Wealth, beauty, and non-utilitarian value are literally waste products in a system obsessed only with pure numerical calculation.
If it can't be counted or applied to a formula, it's worthless.
And lunch introduces the philosophical centerpiece of Digitopolis, the paradox of plenty or subtraction stew.
Milo eats 9 portions, the humbug eats 23. Yet the more they eat, the hungrier they get.
The math magician's explanation is pure clinical madness. Here in Digitopolis, we have our meals when we're full and eat until we're hungry. That way, when you don't have anything at all, you have more than enough.
It's logical in the most reductive sense, but anti-human in its application. It's an economic model based on lack ensuring perpetual want.
He then uses his staff to show Milo a complex equation that, when solved, equals 0, and the entire line vanishes. He explains the best way to get from one place to another is often to erase everything and begin again.
He explores the search for extremes, the biggest number, the smallest number, and he shows the line leading to infinity.
And along this staircase, Milo meets the 0.58 child. Exactly 1/2 of a small child, a little bit more than a half. He belongs to an average family of 2.58 children.
This is the definitive critique against unquestioning statistical reliance. We use averages constantly, but they result in figures that are physically impossible and absurd when applied to tangible life.
The child defends his existence using this flawed but compelling statistical logic. He argues that if you had no money, but 4 friends had $10 each, you'd have an average of $8, making you financially secure.
The ultimate false correlation, but the most unsettling example is the rat and the cats.
If one rat is cornered by 9 cats, on average, each cat would be 10% rat and the rat would be 90% cat.
Milo immediately objects that this can never be. His intuition tells him that a rat is still a rat, and a cat is still a cat.
And the child patiently replies, "Many of the things which can never be often are." It underscores that abstract mathematical truths are constructs that do not always reflect tangible reality.
Milo uses this insight to resolve the feud between King Azaz and the math magician. He applies the logic of language to the structure of mathematics.
If the math magician disagrees with everything Azaz agrees with, and vice versa, then they both must agree to disagree with the same thing, meaning they're truly in agreement.
A wonderful moment of cross-disciplinary critical thinking.
The math magician concedes defeat, acknowledging that the only thing you can do easily is be wrong. He gives Milo a small pencil, a magic staff, and now, with the tools of language and mathematics secured, they're ready to face ignorance itself.
This final region, Part V, confronting ignorance and gaining wisdom, is where the demons reside. A dark land to which many venture but few return. They immediately meet the dirty bird, or word snatcher.
The word snatcher is the demon of misinterpretation and malicious literalism. He takes everything Milo says the wrong way. When Milo says he wants to spend the night, the bird shrieks that it's not Milo's to spend.
He claims to be from a place called Context, but he spends almost all his time out of it. It perfectly illustrates how conversations devolve when context is deliberately ignored.
They leave him and encounter the trivium, an elegant, blank-faced gentleman. He is the ultimate intellectual predator, the expert in wasting time by assigning impossible, meaningless tasks.
Moving a sand pile with tweezers, emptying a well with an eyedropper, digging a hole through a cliff with a needle.
The trivium's goal is to make them monsters of habit. He explains that if they only focus on the easy and useless jobs, they'll never have time for the important, difficult ones.
The temptation he offers is the ultimate promise of intellectual relief. If you stay with him, you'll never have to think again.
It's the subtle seduction of distraction and endless, low-stakes effort that plagues modern productivity.
They escape and face the demon of insincerity, who give them bad advice and tries to lure them into a pit.
He is defeated when Milo uses Alec Bing's telescope, a perfect callback. The moment Milo sees the demon for what he truly is, the demon whimpers, admitting, I don't mean what I say, I don't mean what I do, and I don't mean what I am. He's defeated by truth.
Then there's the gelatinous giant, a huge creature so afraid of commitment he can't make a positive statement. Approximately yes, comparatively no, roughly perhaps.
He embodies intellectual cowardice. He is terrified of ideas. If it's one thing I can't swallow, it's ideas. They're so hard to digest. When Milo holds up the box of words, the giant panics and flees.
The final wave of ignorance includes the triple demons of compromise, horrible hopping hindsight, the gross exaggeration, and the pathetic threadbare excuse.
But the greatest threat comes from the census taker. He is the demon of information overload and relentless personalized distraction.
He captures their attention by asking for endless, tedious, useless information. Birth dates, schools not attended, shoe size, favorite color, all in triplicate.
The trap is the immersion in tedium until they forget their purpose. He then offers illusory sensory experiences. A circus for Milo, a wonderful aroma for TikTok, applause for the humbug.
He's the perfect allegory for the modern attention economy. He drowns purposeful intent in a flood of irrelevant data, then replaces true experience with cheap, illusory distractions.
And the escape is provided by the only sense he cannot steal, the sense of humor. Milo's package of sounds from the soundkeeper breaks open, filling the air with happy laughter, breaking the spell.
A census taker groans, admitting his weakness. As long as you have the sound of laughter, I cannot take your sense of humor. Humor is the ultimate defense against the distractions set by ignorance.
They reach the summit, the castle in the air, and finally meet the two princesses.
Pure reason and sweet rhyme.
And the princesses synthesize all the lessons Milo has learned into a unified philosophy. Reason explains the profound value of failure. She says, you must never feel badly about making mistakes, as long as you take the trouble to learn from them. For you often learn more by being wrong for the right reasons than you do by being right for the wrong reason.
Yeah, phrases worth spending time on. An honest, logical attempt that fails is superior to an accidental success, because the failed attempt reveals the flaws in your reasoning.
Process-oriented thinking trumps result-oriented thinking.
And rhyme provides the context for knowledge acquisition, finally addressing Milo's apathy about turnips from turnips. She says, it's not just learning things that's important, it's learning what to do with what you learn and learning why you learn things at all that matters.
She provides the ultimate answer to the bored boy who saw no point in anything. The knowledge is valuable because of its application. Reason then explains this interconnectedness.
Whatever we do affects everything and everyone else. When a housefly flaps his wings, a breeze goes round the world.
And rhyme concludes with the future of learning, assuring Milo that what you learn today for no reason at all will help you discover all the wonderful secrets of tomorrow. She validates curiosity for its own sake.
The demons attack, but the castle in the air drifts away. Tock glides them down to safety, and the armies of wisdom arrive, led by King Azaz and the math magician. The demons flee.
After celebrations, Milo must depart. He drives back through the toll booth and makes the most amazing discovery.
The time paradox. He had been gone for only 1 hour.
He realizes, I've been gone for only an hour. I'd certainly never realized how much he could do in so short a time.
The realization is complete. When you stop wasting time through apathy, time becomes abundant, not burdensome. The toll booth vanishes, replaced by a final envelope. For Milo, who now knows the way.
The journey is over because the internal journey, the curiosity and sense of purpose, has finally begun.
Okay, let's synthesize the key nuggets of knowledge extracted for you from Milo's adventure, focusing on the principles.
Number 1. Time is agency, not abundance. The story of Tock teaches us that time only gains value when we treat it as a scarce commodity. Wasting it, as the Lethargarians show, is often harder work than purposeful action.
2. The tyranny of jargon. Communication fails both through scarcity, like faintly macabre's silence, and through excess, like the cabinet's rhetoric. True mastery requires precision.
3. Perception is an active responsibility. The invisible city of reality disappeared because of collective neglect. The story argues that external reality requires active, critical observation to maintain its richness.
4. Flawed logic versus tangible reality. Digitopolis shows that pure, context-free calculation, like the giant beaver or the subtraction stew, is dangerous. Logic is a tool, but it must be tempered by intuition and common sense.
5. Prudence must guide power. Milo's chaotic conducting of Chroma's orchestra demonstrated that having the capacity for creativity or power is useless and even destructive without the wisdom to guide its application.
And finally, number 6. Laughter is the ultimate defense. The demons of ignorance thrive on distraction and malicious literalism. The only sense the census taker could not steal was the sense of humor.
And that brings us to the final provocative thought. Milo, the boy who couldn't see the point in useless problems like subtracting turnips, now looks at his own room with fresh eyes.
The source describes him seeing books that could take you anywhere and things to invent and make and build and all the puzzle and excitement of everything he didn't know.
The journey to the lands beyond succeeded by transforming the mundane into the meaningful. He went seeking purpose only to find that purpose was already there, hidden by his own apathy.
He concludes, well, I would like to make another trip, but I really don't know when I'll have the time. There's just so much to do right here. The boy who had plenty of time is now too busy for make-believe.
So now that Milo knows the way to the kingdom of wisdom, why is the real adventure always found in the everyday life you were too bored to see before?
And what turnip problem in your own life is waiting to be solved with the logic of the math magician and the precision of the spelling bee? We'll leave you to chew on that.